Talking Star Wars presents Talking Avatar.
Hello, audience. I am Connor,
And I'm Alex.
and we are talking Star Wars, but today we are talking Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Continuing our ongoing series exploring the world of Avatar The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra with its surrounding media. Today we are going to talk about a more general topic, exploring a motif present throughout most of the series, which is that of the vanished mother and the absent father.
And I feel like, as we are a Star Wars podcast primarily, we can take some allusions to this, but I feel like it's a through line in Avatar so much more than it is Star Wars. Because every character seems to have this sort of lack of responsibility hanging over them uh, that I don't know, feels a little bit more natural to explore than Luke's, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru being disintegrated by stormtroopers, or perhaps Boba Fett, depending on the source that you read. It just happens a little bit more naturally with the different characters in the Avatar universe.
But even Star Wars is primarily concerned, I believe, with fatherhood more so than motherhood. Mothers are characterized as often in Avatar, and this is likely due to some gender role stuff that we'll go into and some storytelling tropes. But fathers are present but complex, and mothers are absent in more of a plot device on occasion. So in Star Wars, we have Padme is dead, and Vader is now not Anakin but Vader, and that is a problem.
Mhm.
We have Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan both as older brother and father surrogates for Anakin, who does not have a surrogate mother figure in the same way. We
Because
have
he will
Kylo.
eventually just kind of go beyond his mother and get off planet and learn and sort of grow to a status beyond what he had with her, which is a slave. And by the time he returns to her, she has more than met her fate.
Well, and then Anakin Skywalker did not have a father other than the Force, and we have Palpatine as sort of this twisted patriarchal relationship with him.
Mhm.
And then even in the sequel trilogy, we have Kylo Ren. Obviously, his parents are Leia Organa and Han Solo. He has a confrontation with and kills his father, Han Solo, but never directly interacts with his mother until his mother dies. Partially that is due to Carrie Fisher's death, but also she was aware of him and wanted to bring him back to the light side the entire trilogy and just never even met him face to face that we can see.
But that's a complaint for another day. I'm sure that I can build up missed opportunities of Leia at some point, but uh,
Yeah, but to go back, so
yeah.
that's our baseline Star Wars take on it. But to
Mhm.
go back to the Avatar universe, this is our talking Avatar episode. We can see this motif of the complex but absent father and the mother who has just vanished and is no longer present in the story through most of our main cast in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
We kind of have that with I would call them our point of view characters, which would be Katara and Sokka, our water tribe members who befriend Aang and work with him through the adventures of the show. They are not exactly orphans, but they have a mother who has been just become a casualty of the war between them and the Fire Nation, and their father is off fighting that war, so he's really not in the picture.
Yeah, so Hakoda, their father, is the leader of the Southern Water Tribe forces and has been gone for many years fighting the war to try to keep them safe, has given responsibilities to both of them to keep the family safe. And their mother is again dead. The both of the siblings idolize the memory of their mother and have complicated feelings about her death. And she herself is depicted in a couple of flashbacks, but she is no longer in the story to provide her point of view. She is gone, and her death is a motivating factor for both of our characters. More now as a idealized version of herself,
Mhm.
whereas Hakoda, their father, both siblings, Katara and Sokka, have complicated feelings about him.
Mhm.
Sokka putting him up on a pedestal and wanting to live up to his reputation. and Katara feeling like he left the weight of the world on her shoulders and resenting him for leaving and leaving all of the weight of keeping their family safe on the shoulders of two teenagers.
Very understandable. I mean, Katara is the only bender left in the Southern Water Tribes, so understandably, there's a lot of responsibility placed on her shoulder in order to protect and maintain things while he's gone. But she is 12, at the time that we are introduced to her in the story about. And even then, her father left before that. So, asking this amount of responsibility out of a child is definitely necessary in this world, and it shows how dire some of the consequences are. But it's still understandably stressful for those who have that pressure put upon them. And I don't even really want to mention Aang so much because Aang's parents are a mystery. They're nebulous. He was a member of the Air Nomads, and it kind of seems like similar to the Jedi Order. If there's anyone who was gifted in airbending, they were sent off to one of these monasteries, and the monks raised them from.
No, but I do think we need to talk about Aang, though, because, again, any maternal figure in his life is entirely absent. We do not, and that might be due to the gender segregated nature of Air Nomad society at that time, or maybe not. We don't have enough insight into their culture to know, but he does have a father figure in the form of Monk Gyatso, who takes on the role of protector and sort of, his father teaches him, bends the rules for him, wants to do whatever is best for him in a very fatherly role. And his death affects Aang as the death of a parent would affect anyone. So again, we have Aang has a father figure who engages in complex stories, and he entirely lacks any kind of mother figure. In fact, Katara, his eventual wife, is the maternal part of his life, which is again a character trait that is noted and explored through Katara's character, where she had to grow up too quickly and assume a maternal role. And part of their growing relationship is them growing past a sort of maternal child relationship into a partnership.
So yeah, he definitely does have just that still lack of a parental force in his active life, where his whole family were the Air Nomads, and they were unceremoniously wiped out by, then Fire Lord. So I guess pairing into the idea of the different Fire Lord related families, Zuko is our next picture perfect version of someone who might have some paternal issues, some maternal issues going on in his life that motivate his decisions, his actions.
Yeah, again, for Zuko and Azula, his sister, Zuko being the Prince of the Fire Nation and Azula being Princess of the Fire Nation, Zuko having originally been in line for the throne and by the time of the start of the series has been banished. So Zuko has been literally disfigured by his father and then exiled. So obviously very complicated feelings there. And his father is not winning Best Father of the Year mug award at any point in time ever, not to either sibling who he plays against each other. And both siblings, again, have complicated opinions about their mother, who was a more nurturing and positive presence in their life. But by the time our main story begins, she is gone from their lives. Whether she is dead or exiled, we do not learn until after the series is done. In the comic series, The Search, which is about Zuko searching for his mother, all we know is that she is not dead. But through the main series, again, the mother figure for Zuko and Azula, Ursa, she is defined by being absent and not present in their lives anymore, so leaving a hole in their lives that cannot be filled. And we have a father figure who is still present in the story, existing as a character to be interacted with, and for Azula, devoted to, and for Zuko, defied.
And it's so interesting that it's the flip side with their opinion of their mothers, where Zuko idolizes his mother. She was the only source of comfort or softness in the Fire Nation when he was growing up. And from Azula, she just felt this lack of love from her mother because she, unfortunately took on many personality traits of her father. And Ursa and Ozai were not the most compatible of couples.
And we can still see the same pattern through the rest of the other Fire Nation as well. The other primary example being Iroh, who was father to Luten, being the uncle of Zuko, We don't know anything about Iroh's wife or partner that bore him Luten, or was the mother to Luten. She is presumably gone by the time the series starts, and Iroh does not have or express either concern or grief over the loss of a partner. All of his grief is reserved for the death of his son. So again, we have a heartbreaking and nuanced depiction of a father's relationship to his dead son. We do not get the same motherly impact or see the effect from a mother's perspective.
I've just been disassociating while you're talking about any sort of reaction that Iroh has towards his son Luten. But I'll transition that into saying that all of his paternal instincts and wisdom go into trying to salvage Zuko. And Zuko is just fiery, for lack of a better term. Search for honor and justice. I would say revenge, but it's not like he's trying to get vengeance upon his father. He's trying to prove to his father that he is worth something. And while Zuko is on this Don Quixotean quest for something that is just impossible for him to achieve, Iroh is just simply trying to teach him humility and inner peace so that he can be a better person and eventually a better Fire Lord. And it only takes Zuko 3 seasons of a show to understand that.
Yeah, so we definitely see this concept of found family and found fatherhood, and it primarily does appear, at least in the Avatar: The Last Airbender, to be focused on paternal, fatherly energy. We even see Aang getting another father figure in the form of his past life, Roku, who was the past avatar he is closest with and who serves as his mentor. We have a couple of other past female avatars that and women that advise him, but none as closely as Roku does.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. I would definitely consider these to be parental relations of a sort because, yes, they are versions of Aang. They are his past lives, but if you open up the scope of what parents are, they're passing on their genes, their lessons, their memories to their children. So it's very natural to have this sense of continuation between one avatar and the next and the next.
Yeah, and to continue to survey some other parental relationships just in rapid succession, we have Toph, who both of her parents are alive, but primarily we get a focus on her father as the source of control and power in her life. He is the one who hires mercenary earthbenders to attempt to kidnap his daughter again, and it is Toph's relationship with her father that we see explored in the comics, the rift, her mother having left her father and due to his treatment of their daughter. But again, that all happens off screen. So we instead focus on Toph's relationship with her father.
Sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when Toph is sort of sneakily lured back to her home through a letter, was it a letter addressed from her father or from her mother?
I believe the letter was from her mother trying to meet her there. So her mother was used as a device to get her into a location, but was never there.
Interesting. Just something to point out where I don't know if it was done intentionally or subtly, but they're almost trying to play to perhaps Toph's closer, more understanding, sympathetic relationship with her mother more so than her father by tricking her.
But then her mother was made into just a literal plot device.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, not every single character can be as fully fleshed out. We still have some fantastically realized female personas here, including Toph herself. But
yes, we do.
We a plot device.
We do, but we definitely sort of lack, I think, exploration of the maternal and motherly energy in this original Avatar: The Last Airbender trilogy. Even going into some other more minor characters, we have Yue, whose father talks about saving her as a child and who has to give her away. Yue's mother is seen nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
The closest we get to we have the grandmother of Sokka and Katara is still alive and helps them on their journey. But as far
Katara plays a maternal role not only to Aang, but to Sokka, to Toph, pretty much anyone within Team Avatar. Uh, uh, Katara plays a very nice wet blanket to anyone's fun and levity.
and that's the and she even starts to resent that role, and we get an exploration of her having to take on that maternal role too early, which is certainly an interesting commentary. So it's potential. And so I wanted to go into the why next. We could go over
Mhm.
more examples, but really we get much more about fathers still in the picture and being complicated than we do about mother characters who are mostly just absent, gone, vanished, not in the picture. The interactions happen off screen.
Mhm.
So I think part of it we need to acknowledge is that the two primary writers of Avatar are men. Um, Certainly women had influence and input on the show, but I believe all the nuances of a father relationship sort of came more easily to the story.
Sure.
What would you say, Connor? Why would you think that we have this emphasis on fathers more so than mothers?
I mean, we could look at fiction and we have this, Darth Vader example where the father is the source of evil that needs to be either forgiven or redeemed, or in the case of Avatar, done with in a non-violent way. I don't know if that's something that, as the creators being men, that just felt more natural. Um, I'm not sure because otherwise I would say that, in traditional fiction we have women as more of a supporting role, but I would argue that Katara is uh, equal to at least Zuko as far as a hero goes. In what she accomplishes by the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Azula is just as much a villain. So it's not like there are female characters that don't have that um, as creative as level up writing as the male heroes do. It could be where mothers are an ultimate source of comfort, and we in a uh, ticking clock sort of drama don't want to have a comfort or an easy answer. And that's what, in our culture, mothers represent. What do you think?
I would definitely say some normative gender roles are at play here. In that, we have it's an easy source of conflict of the nurturing, stable part of their life is gone or absent. And so then we are just left with the complicated, untempered masculine energy of the father that needs to be dealt with. So I think it's sort of this like women is sort of the passive gender and men is more active, which it doesn't really show as like the actual characters themselves. We have very strong female representation with Azula, Mai,
Mhm.
Ty Lee, Katara, Toph, Yue. So as far as like our main viewpoint characters, I would say we mostly avoid the trap of just getting primarily a male perspective. And we even have the series does engage with questions of sexism actively and in a nuanced and complicated way. No one is perfect. Healing sometimes means moving on, accepting progress rather than perfection. But I think this is a subtler part where I think it's either showing either real world or in this world sort of some sexism that is still present, or at least gender norms from the present day that are seeping into the fiction.
Mhm.
But to go on from there, though, I think we do get more maternal energy and a more nuanced picture of parenthood coming in The Legend of Korra, particularly as we get into the back half of The Legend of Korra.
Sure. I mean, Korra herself, her parents are an interesting case where both of them seem sort of pacifistic, where Korra's mother doesn't play a very large role other than emotional support, and her father plays a role as sort of a boundary, not exactly an antagonist. We learned that there are some secrets that uh, both Korra's father and her teacher Tenzin have kept from her, but at the same time, Korra's father's not playing a major role in the events of that. Her uncle is taking that position, which again, we have this idea of absent fathers. If Korra's father isn't going to provide the answers that she needs in uncovering this spiritual mystery from the Water Tribe, her uncle is there to provide those answers and to summarily manipulate her as a villain. Uh, but I would say that's the only role in which parentism, I don't know if that's a word, but if it is, it should be, or isn't, it should be. Uh, that's the only time that comes up, rather than Tenzin being this, partial father figure. I would see it more as a teacher, but you're right in seeing that we do have a much more of a focus on family especially when we take a look at the role that Aang and Katara played as parents, along with Toph.
I think we can expand that even to some of our villains too. So to a survey of our primary team Avatar as well. So we have
Mhm.
Korra, whose parents are still alive. Rock, her father, again, is a minor supporting character. He gets more screen time than his wife and
Mhm.
Korra's mother, but his mother does have a speaking role and appears and gives advice to her daughter. So remains a force there. So
And
positive.
a small anecdote, I was so confused because to me, the voice actress for the mother sounded as old as Korra. So it's like, is this Korra's like older sister? Or, now I feel like a weird uncle in a bar, but uh, just a small touch on, you know, this actress who should be sounding 40, 50 sounds more like a 20, 30-year-old, but
Yeah, I mean, of
sorry for the
course,
inclusion.
17, and she had a young kid. She was fairly young, with
Mm,
late 30s, early 40s. Um,
makes sense.
yeah, and then we have Bolin and Mako, who are orphans. So, and they do not particularly, and Mako has his mother's scarf, right?
Hmm.
So we have more attachment to his mother, but again, we have both parents being absent. So no maternal or paternal energy for either of them, and neither of them really seek out parental replacements in any
Hmm.
way.
They're very
Uh,
self-sufficient, or should I say codependent? They
they
do
are
navigate that line.
codependent and they work towards self sufficiency.
Yeah.
Uh, Mako getting self sufficient and then learning to let people in. Bolin being very codependent and then learning to stand more on his own
Hmm.
as the series goes on. Where Mako learning he doesn't have to be an island. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, not really. Even when Mako starts working for Lin Beifong, she remains his mentor and his boss. But as we get into Lin Beifong, she is a older female character who rejects a maternal role, which is also, I think, great to see. But then takes on a mentor role in other ways. But we have Asami, our last member of Team Avatar, who again her mother is already dead, and her mother's murder is again the primary story beat about her, not anything about her mother specifically. We don't really even know her name, her personality. We do get a little bit of it actually in a recent comic series where we see a young
Hmm.
Asami working with her mother, who was an architect. So it's sorely needed. So we do actually get a sense of Asami's mother as a character and why her death would have been so um, horrible for her father. Hiroshi Sato. Yeah, so why Hiroshi would have been so devastated by the loss of his wife.
This is
Positive.
a man that is a very interesting figure because he is I would argue, a secondary antagonist in the first season of Korra and really doesn't return until the very end as a sacrificial hero.
Yeah, but Asami's relationship with him remains a subplot, ignoring
Mhm.
his letters from jail, then seeing him in prison. So again, a complicated father who's absent but available, or and then a mother who is entirely gone.
Mhm. The toll it plays on her is very clear throughout the later parts of the Korra series.
Yeah, we even see this going on in with our two villains from season one, Amon and Tarlok,
Ah,
where
yes.
their father Yakone is a powerful bloodbender and a very powerful in force in both of their lives, who they resent, want to overcome, and so on. Other than a couple of lines from Tarlok about how his father seduced their mother and then married her, we have no information about her either as a force in their lives, if they want to go back there, if she had any impact at all, or whether she was just totally overshadowed by her mass murdering husband.
Mhm. We're going to have to come back to this in the end because it is so interesting how it is repetitively this sins of the father motif, and the father is underlined because we don't have a villainous mother so much. Uh, I mean, none in this series has tried to uh, embark on a mission for global or at least metropolitan domination, like Unalaq and Tarlek's father was. But yeah, it's just very interesting where there's the machinations and the manipulations of the father lead to totally different paths for his two sons in the first season of Korra.
Yeah, in our visual media, we have only two primary female antagonists. Azula, who is 15 to 16, and Kuvira, who is in her late 20s, and while married, does not have any children. She has sort of gone the fascist mother to her nation path. So that, yeah, going back to some of the other things, we do, however, get more depictions of maternal supported mothers in action in Korra. We have Pema, who is Tenzin's wife and mother to their 3, then 4 children.
And mother to the entire Air Nation as well as a non-bender.
Yes, until season 3 is mother to the entire mother and or wife to the entire Air Nation. Gives Korra love advice and relationship. Maintains a force on Tenzin, advising him, mentors her children. So she's not a main character in the way that Tenzin is, but she's never forgotten about. She is there, she is present, she is active, she is having an impact on the story. And Tenzin's mother, Katara, also remains in the story, and his relationship with her is good but complex. And their other 2 siblings, Kaya and Bumi, are also still alive. And Aang is this time now the dead father, and we have Katara as the absent, distant mother that they all idolize. So it's sort of a reversal, and it's good to see that kind of relationship where Tenzin doesn't like being referred back to his mother, and all the siblings have complicated feelings about their dead father.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to have. This came out long before any sort of Force Awakens or Last Jedi, but we have notions that our hero Aang is flawed in some degree, where he has 3 children, an airbender, waterbender, and a non-bender, and he, for better or worse, pours his attention and his devotion into his airbending son as a means of trying to allow his culture to live, and it came to the sacrifice of his relationship with his 2 younger kids.
Yeah, and we even see that his older children, whether it's due to this or not, don't start families of their own. Kaya is gay, and presumably, is not in a long-term relationship with another woman at this point, and never adopted or bore children. Bumi's life is his career. He only finds sort of a second identity after leaving the military when he himself becomes an airbender. And he's sort of a surrogate uncle, father figure to other individuals, particularly uncle to Milo, who he has a good rapport with. But yeah, all of the maternal, paternal energy in the air tribe it's a through line from Aang and Katara to Pema and Tenzin. And then Tenzin takes on the role of father of his nation kind of way when more airbenders come aboard to a mixed degree, we'll say. But we do get positive. We do have Pema as a character. And then we also have Toph, whose 2 daughters, Lin and Su Yin, are both alive. Both have different relationships with her. And their fathers are entirely absent. In fact, she had the children herself as a single mother and never even told her daughters who their fathers were.
I hope that Sokka is one of them. That's just, I don't know how it would happen, but it would just be nice. After Suki, faced an unfortunate defeat, if Sokka and Toph could have, born a child, that would be nice. But anyway, that's the shipping corner on this episode of Talking Avatar. I'm waiting for Alex's disdain to return to me.
Yeah, I am going to let my disdain speak for itself, Connor. Then we're going to move on.
Yes.
So, to some other examples of a maternal, we have Toph, we have Su Yin herself, who has a big family, and then her husband
seems to be much more well-adjusted. Yes.
Yeah, and then her husband is certainly there, but sort of plays the same role Pema does. He's there, he's supportive, he's got his own interests, he's a cool guy, But Su Yin is definitely the driving force of the story in that she is a metal bender and basically leader of a city-state, and is adoptive, basically mother surrogate figure for Kuvira, and has her own. She has what, 4 children?
I'd have to look that up, but she has a
The,
healthy amount of children and in a variety of sporty and gothic flavors.
She has 5 children. Yeah, metal bending twins, and then her Opal, her daughter, who enters a relationship with Bolin, and then Batar Jr., who becomes the partner of Kuvira.
Ah. Does that include the goth? I know there's some goth involved somewhere.
Yeah, those are the twins, if you remember.
Oh, I didn't know there were two of them. I was just
Or what
mixing
was
them
it?
up with
What,
the.
am I mixing it up myself?
Let's say they have a healthy amount of children. So we have Opal, who has the only significant plot influence with her relationship with Bolin. Otherwise, we have uh, Suyin's other children, one of them being Kuvira's second in command. And what was the name of that one?
Batar Jr. becomes
Gotcha.
Kuvira's second in command and
Sure.
husband.
So maybe not the most healthy of relationships, but she still has a flourishing relationship. She has her own kingdom in the Earth realm. She's doing well for herself, ostensibly within at least the third season of Korra.
And I think, yeah, Suyin is probably our best example of a matriarch character, where
Mhm.
she is a mother, has a whole clan that reports to her, takes on sort of maternal roles of other people, but is also strong, independent, has her own goals and interests.
Mhm.
In much of the same way that we have some other patriarch characters, kind of like Iroh and Aang and Tenzin. Tenzin probably being the closest other example in Korra of being patriarch of a clan of
Mhm.
individuals that everyone looks up to. So Suyin, great example. And then in some expanded media, I've mentioned in our villain release episode, but the primary villain of Imbalance is a mother with 2 daughters who, Liling, um, the matriarch of the pro-bending, not the professional, but as in bending supremacist faction from Imbalance, is both a mother and a horrible racist person.
Mm,
So prejudiced. We'll call it prejudiced. It's not about race. It's about ability. So
more apt. So I guess looking at large in terms of the greater themes, so we have one strong, significant on-screen mother in Suyin. We have another in Imbalance. But other than just sort of diagnosing this vanished mothers and absent fathers, so why would you diagnose this occurrences happening so frequently in Avatar?
I would say that that it is easier to write a father figure having an immediate impact on the story, given like gender norms and
Mhm.
typical tropes and plots that you have between fathers and their children. It is more difficult in the culture that we're writing in to have a character like Suyin that people will take seriously, and people even judge Suyin very harshly in parts of the
Mhm.
fandom for the decision she makes to, not become emperor of the Earth or the new Earth Kingdom leader, for the ways in which she's raising her children. But she is her own nuanced and independent character. We even have the example of her sister, Lynn, who decided not to have children, which is fine. No one's judging Boomy for not having
Mhm.
kids. Um, so I would say part of it, and then as we see more mothers present, I believe, is an acknowledgement that you can have sources of conflict and drama and family that don't revolve around someone's mother being dead. And I think that was an easy way to show it's like, oh, if their mother wasn't dead, why are they in this situation? And it's like, well, because they're their own person. Korra's mother is alive, and Korra just does her own thing all the time. Her mother exists as a character, but does not control her actions. So I think part of it is just sort of a maturation of the media landscape within which Avatar is taking place. And just, I think, and part of it is the setting itself. At least a couple of the cultures start off as fairly sexist, which sort of
Mhm.
pigeonholes women into particular roles. Whether that was consciously adapted into the screen, I do not know, but you could certainly view that in universe as an explanation for the prevalence of father relationships taking plot significance over that of mother relationships.
And we'll in fact get to relationships where the mother plays a present role, but that will wait until we get to our expanded universe review in a couple of weeks, when we dig into the comic books and graphic novels that were released subsequent to the end of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series.
Yeah, and then we do need to give honorable mention in that there is a mother spirit shown, the mother of Ko, the face stealer, the mother of faces, but also unhealthy relationship. So none of these parental relationships are ever depicted as perfect, which is, I think, how it should be. And I think one of the reasons that we see fewer, now that it's occurring to me, fewer mother relationships is it is harder to show an imperfect mother-daughter or mother-son relationship that people won't judge very harshly and dismiss the character. Aang can be a nuanced father. Tenzin can be sort of this overbearing but enjoyable father figure, whereas Toph, who deliberately falls into no typical constructions of motherhood, just is judged harshly for that, even though it's being maternal was never a great part of her character, and it never becomes one even when she does decide to have children. She tries her best.
But yes, it's always complicated, as any kind of parental relationship is. And we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us try to navigate this subject of difficulty, and look forward to you joining us further as we delve into other subjects and characters within the Avatar universe.
Thank you for your time today and exploring the mother-father relationships with their children in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Korra, and supporting media. Drop us a line about what you think on our Reddit page, anywhere you see this podcast, and we look forward to talking more Avatar and Star Wars in the future.
Yeah, let us know if there are any other kind of relationship ties that you have in mind. And Alex, I think we should add this to the list that we have of Star Wars ideas, because I think it would be worthwhile and reflecting on how pretty much none of the characters have a strong paternal or maternal relationship.
No healthy families in Star Wars. This is true.
Oh, yes. Until next time.